Yeah, well, New Point wants to be about families. So, they're starting a new initiative with sports ministry that is about the youth.
Okay.
So this will be a youth sports league, 6th grade and below. We've had a huge financial commitment from people in the community and people on our board to build this sports park up behind the church. It's 22 acres. It'll be, I say sports park, but it'll be kind of a community sports park.
Gotcha.
There's a 11,000 square foot pavilion with full concessions being built, fireplace, TVs, playground, all kinds of things going on to where, you can, if your kids are practicing on a Tuesday night for soccer practice, mom and dad can hang out in the pavilion. Dad can have the TVs on. Mom can sit by the fire if it's cold in the fall, get a hot dog while the kids are practicing, or if it's game day on Saturday. That's kind of the environment.
Welcome to me casa, make yourself at home, do your do. Welcome to my pad, this your lab, go create your move.
This episode is brought to you by Subway. What's good, everybody? It's 99 Miles Per Hour podcast with me, your host, Percy Garner. And yes, I'm back to the baby face. The wife got tired of the facial hair. I actually kind of liked it, but whatever. We got a great episode today. I've been waiting on this one, and I know we've had a break, a little intermission between episodes, and glad to have you guys back. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe, like, all that YouTuber talk stuff. Just do all that stuff because we'd appreciate it, and we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So go ahead and do that. Now, this podcast wouldn't be possible without Subway Eat Fresh. I feel like I haven't made a post in a while about Subway, but if you guys aren't using their app, it's very easy. You can do DoorDash like with Subway. They got a lot of good new, they got the protein bowls. They got all the new sandwiches. I try to mix it up. I'm a creature of habit. My whole high school life, I got a chicken bacon ranch, so I'm trying to change what I eat. So, but yeah, go ahead, check them out. And, without them, this podcast wouldn't be possible. So thank you to Subway and the Fitzgerald family. And I kind of want to, do a little funeral for the Browns and celebrate this. I'm messing.
This may not help your viewership.
No, go check out the Dogs podcast, where they celebrate the Browns. Like that little plug there for you, Josh. But without further ado, I want to get to the show and our guest. And everyone knows I love to do introductions. So this person, at one point, no lie, I used to be afraid of. He was my boss. And before I got to know him, I was afraid. But great leader. Long career and in the retail history and working for big companies and leading group of people like myself as I'm maturing as an adult. And it was a great experience working for Mr. Ryan Bowling. And but now I look at him in a different light. Big spiritual guy. Definitely a leader in the community. Coach for the middle school basketball team at Dover. The best city in Tuscarawas County. And we got some new things that we want to talk about, and I'm excited to get to it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Bowling.
Howdy.
How's it going?
Good.
Man, it's I know we've been we had meetings and we were talking about doing the episode, and I'm just glad you reached out and said, hey, I'm enjoying your podcast. And I was like, oh, I'd love to have him on. So, glad we can make it happen. And it's good to see you, man. What's been going on lately with you?
Man, just getting through the season with Dover Middle School and Dover basketball. Started a new role here in about last 2.5 months with New Point.
Okay.
So I'm the director of sports ministry for New Point.
Wow.
And that keeps me busy.
I bet.
Family, obviously. My wife works at New Point too. She's in student ministry at New Point. So that keeps us busy. And then spending time with family, man, and doing some hobbies.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And we'll get into, because I'm kind of curious of what you like to do in your free time outside of, coaching and parenting and things you do, because I do want to get into Isaac, your son, as well. And, the team that you and your wife make up, and how you guys, I guess just encourage each other and go through that. So I want to touch on that a little bit. But the thing I guess what I talked about, which kind of intimidated me early on, because I wasn't a guy, believe it or not, I think most people don't believe this, but I wasn't a high confidence guy.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
So I'm confident when we come to social.
This is a stick for you to get some more subs, empathy subs.
I like it. We need to play that ankle, Josh. Let's keep doing that. But no, in the social arena, that's never been a problem. But like when the first job I think I ever had was at Best Buy. And then I came to Finish Line, and it was like, it was being in the workforce. I was like, whoa, okay, this is more competitive than I initially, anticipated, but it's still not like cutthroat. We had a great team at Finish Line and stuff like that. But
you didn't work there when it was commission. If you would have worked there when it was commission, it might have been a little more cutthroat. Okay. Yeah. It was pretty intense.
Oh, okay. So I didn't get to experience that.
Yeah.
That might have been fun, but
yeah, you get what was it, 3% on a sneaker sale.
Wow.
So you sell a $200 sneaker.
Dang. Okay.
Getting a good rip. $6. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely missed out on that, but I know, I'm a sneakerhead, and I quick story. I don't know if I told you this before, but I applied at Finish Line while I was in college in Muncie, Indiana, while I was at Ball State, and got the quick just rejection, just fast. Like, I was like, wait, what? I took one of those personality tests and just came back, and they're like, no.
You said you didn't fit?
Yeah, I was like,
that test was flawed.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, dang, I wasn't a good test taker until I got out of college. but no, I was like, man, so I was kind of scared to apply again.
Yeah. We used to turn away a lot of good people from that test. That test was garbage. We'd have people come in and you'd know them for weeks, right? And
yeah.
go take that test, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
No, absolutely. We petitioned hard internally to get rid of that test.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Well, I just know in my experience with Finish Line was great. And, how long did you work for Finish Line?
18 years.
Wow. Okay. That's what's up. But I just thought it was funny because the way you carried yourself, I envied that when you would come in and, because you were working all over the region, but when you'd visit our store, it was almost like, parents come home from work. Is your room clean? Is everything straight? Like, Ryan's coming in, or we called you RB. RB's coming in. Yeah. Everybody act cool. That's how it was like. I don't know if you knew that, but it was just. It was a fun dynamic too, because I had someone younger than me that was my boss. So it was a great experience, and I know you've obviously 18 years of Finish Line, so you've obviously loved your time there. But before we get into the full switch you're making here and how you've gotten to and I want to know your spiritual path. But before we get into that, I just kind of do want to stick on confidence for like where does yours stem from? Is it something that, in your childhood, your parents instilled that in you to be self-confident so you can, accomplish great things? How was that for you?
I think it's more about how we're wired. I think that God wires us all certain ways, and we all have natural tendencies. I think my natural tendency is, it's funny because I don't look at myself like that.
You don't?
No, not at all. But obviously I've had people say that to me, but that's natural for me. But what's not natural, that I have to work really hard at, is making sure that I express humility, that I don't show a big ego, and it could be different for everybody. I don't think having high self-confidence is an advantage or anything over other people. People that maybe not have high self-confidence are better in other things, like having humility and keeping their ego out of things and letting their pride not get in the way. I just think it's how God wired us, and I get a lot of confidence from my faith as well,
sure.
Believing in Jesus and who he is, who he says he is, but I listen, we're all broken people in some way, shape or form. And I think that Although I may have a perception of confidence, exude confidence to others, that it's natural, but I have to be aware of those other things, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've been told before that, you have an ego and it gets in the way, or your pride,
Really?
especially early in my career. Yeah. There were a lot of peers of mine, other area managers, store managers, that I couldn't understand why they didn't like me. No, seriously, this was
Really?
a routine conversation with my boss, and I was just super competitive and wanted to win.
Well, that's
and would
why you're
never-
so good.
well, I never intentionally try to step on anybody's toes, but sometimes that confidence can be that way. But I had to work hard to let people. I had to develop some of that humility, and I had to remind myself of that. And some of that comes with age and maturity. Mm-hmm. That you don't have things figured out, and that you need to be able to seek wisdom when needed. And so again, I think it goes both ways. I think if I don't envy anybody that has high self-confidence, because I know what I have to go through and process and think about and be intentional about. So I'm not perceived the way I don't want to be perceived.
I got you. I never thought of it like that, because I just naturally self-deprecate and make fun of myself. I think it's funny. I'm not like, I might not think I have high self-confidence, and I'm comparing myself to greats like LeBron and Jordan. Obviously their self-confidence is on a different level. And I never want to, come off as, a cocky guy or arrogant guy. And I've never gotten that. Instead of, maybe people that don't know me or never spoken to me might think that, but it more was when I was playing baseball, and I've talked about this on the show before, but I would just envy players that I knew I was physically talented, way more talented than them, but I just could not perform because I did not believe like they did. And I'm like, dude, you throw 82. How are you so confident in your pitches? I don't understand. And I envied that, but I mean, how you just kind of explain that, it makes sense to me. And I'm like, well, I've never had trouble in this area showing, certain humility in an area where I just naturally do it. And some of my friends, because they know what I struggle with, they're like, dude, don't say that about yourself. There's no reason to say that. Don't bring yourself down like that. But I just always felt like I needed to do that, because part of me because growing up in this area, a lot of people, they are definitely against the arrogant type of person. But for me, I've always been everyone I know that succeeds in life, at a high level, whether that's a high earner or, looked up to as a leader, they have some type of ego. And I just think that's how men are. Not all men, but, I feel like that's how we were supposed to be made, because we have to provide. And, in the olden days, not to, we already got into trouble talking about the women thing, but men are supposed to provide and protect the home. So you can't be, a guy who just kind of wavers oh yeah, I hope.
See, I don't look at it as gender.
Okay.
My wife has a ton of self-confidence.
Okay.
She'll put me in my place.
My wife's the same way, but I think she thinks I'm a bit I have a big ego, so she has to bring me down. And I'm like, no. Once she saw, after I was done being away playing baseball and come back home, then she was like, oh, this whole time I thought you were this, you were so confident in yourself. And I'm like, no, stop doing that. I need some compliments.
I think so. I had one of the things that kept me at Finish Line for such a long time. I had a great group of mentors, and I still do. He was my one mentor, Marlon. He was a mentor for me when I started at Finish Line, and until I quit my job, he was my boss.
I've heard that name before.
And he was incredible in helping me see my blind spots early. I started there when I was 23, 24 years old, and didn't have the self-awareness that I've tried to have now, and I remember a lot of tough conversations with him, here's what you're good at, but did you know that when you said this to that person that you pissed them off? Did you know that? And I didn't know.
But you need that. I remember
Absolutely.
I was at a conference listening to one of the leaders of Toward the Goal. Are you familiar with that ministry?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
He was talking about blind spots, and I was like, Okay. I kind of like that. And, but, you know, one thing I wanted to ask you was, I know you're confident in yourself, but did it ever waver? Does it waver? Do you have moments where you're like not as confident, or?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious because, you know, you see people and you're just like, you think one way until you actually no one just goes up to us, hey man, do you ever, your confidence ever waver? No one just stops people on the street and asks
Yeah.
So, you know, I was curious just because, like, obviously the perspective looking at you, like I already said before you answered the question, that's how we behaved at is it store 16?
Oh, Newtown Mall. Yeah.
The Newtown Mall, man. I couldn't believe that it was that so low of a number. But
yeah, before I learned how to handle adversity, before I had faith to lean on. When I lost my father in 2004, right before I started working at Finish Line, I went through a really dark time in my life. I was mad at the world. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I was drinking a lot. I would purposely go out with friends and drive home, you know, trying to get into an accident because I was so mad at the world. And I lost my father suddenly. And
okay. Those are always tough.
And he was more of a friend than a father, especially in my college years. So it was really difficult to process that, and I didn't know how to process that. You know, I didn't have the faith guidance, or my wife and her guidance that I have today. So specifically remembering that time was tough, and trying to, because you thought you had an identity, but the person that you leaned on a lot for that identity was out of your life, and you were mad about that, and you didn't know how to process that. So yeah, that was a really dark time.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, obviously I lost both my parents, but neither of them was sudden. And I had to kind of help a friend because I had, at the time, you know, my parents had passed, but her father passed away with a heart attack. And she didn't, you know, hadn't seen him that day, or in the morning saw him, but that's a whole different animal. And obviously I still tried to help and, you know, kind of be there for her, but that's like, you know, for my dad, he struggled with cancer for 2 years. So you're kind of preparing at some point. And for those sudden deaths, it definitely hits different. And I mean, that's always tough to deal with. But how did you, what brought you out? Like, who was your support system after your dad passed that kind of helped you get, you know, planted? Was it Marlon? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I was interviewing for a job at Finish Line. In the process of interviewing, when that happened, when my father's death happened. So I met some men at Finish Line that kind of became that father figure for me, and we spent a lot of long nights talking. I remember, so I started in what used to be the Finish Line in Polaris in Columbus, because I was living in Columbus, and that's
where I started at Best Buy.
Oh, okay. Well, I just graduated from college and then started working, and met some gentlemen that worked at Finish Line, and they had a culture at the time. They had a culture of just development and pouring into people, and understanding that people were your greatest asset, and it's not the product. And, you know, just the one-on-one sessions, I mean, I'll never forget them. And that's kind of what helped pull me out of it. Like, okay, you know, not only did I find a career path to keep my interest going, you know, and like not be mad at the world, but also people that cared about me as much. I felt they cared about me as much as my father cared about me, you know, and because they were always there for me, they would help me answer just like a father figure would, you know. Yeah. So that really helped pull me out of things. And then that was the first introduction I had and as an adult with faith, because Marlon is a man of faith. So awesome. I met him later, about 6 months later in Akron, and he was managing the store at Chapel Hill, and he was just incredible.
Dang. See, I didn't know that. I've heard Marlon's name, but it was almost like your name. It was like RB and Marlon, you know, they're so, I used to look at that and like how the Phillies treated their, you know, because when I got drafted to the Phillies, they had like stars, you know, Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, Doc Holliday, Cole Hamels, Roy Oswald.
Who was the manager?
Charlie Manuel.
Yeah, the one you couldn't hit. It sounds like he's got a mouthful of marbles.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember about Charlie Manuel. That's the only thing I remember about him.
Yeah, and I always forget that he was. I don't know why.
Was there a translator for him? Was there somebody that'd be like, okay, that Charlie said that. This is what he meant. I always wondered that about Charlie.
Well, I don't know because
he was a great manager for the Indians.
He was. Yeah. And I mean, obviously,
and they loved him.
Yeah, and the players loved him. Obviously, he had the way he spoke was different, and a lot of times the way he would say different people's names. Like, we had the number one prospect in all of baseball when I got drafted to the Phillies. His name was Dominic Brown, but he would call him Domonique. He's like, what is Domonique?
I don't think that would fly today. No, that's like Ron, right? Like, that's not flying today. And fair enough. Like, Charlie probably needs some diversity training. Yeah.
But their team was stacked with dudes making 20 million plus, and they were just like, they're them. You're not on that level. Do not talk to them at all. So it was, and that was kind of how I treated you. And I know, but I mean, when you came in, you didn't act like that, and none of the players acted like that. But that's just the atmosphere that was given to us. And then when I got with the Indians, it was completely different, and just like, oh, okay, this is real. But that's amazing that you at Finish Line that you found a spiritual kind of a leader and someone that could instill that in you and be like, oh, okay. It's because I'm assuming obviously that's foreshadowing to what I want to get into later, but I kind of just wanted to, so on your career path with Finish Line, where was it when you started to get real strong in your faith and you felt like, okay, like, I want to take the next step and, start and get into a leadership? Because I'm assuming, what we're going to talk about later is you're not just like, hey, this is going to be my first time being a leader spiritually, and I just want to dive into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. It could be, but, at what point were you, feeling, I guess, where you brought confidence and you got your confidence from, Jesus Christ?
It wasn't until I met my wife.
Oh, okay.
So quick spiritual background. So, growing up, I grew up in a Lutheran church the church was on Nickel Plate in Louisville.
Okay.
And, my father was heavily involved in the church. The church actually years ago was in East Canton and burned down, but the cemetery was still in East Canton where I grew up. And, so they rebuilt the church in Louisville. And so we were one of the only families that lived in East Canton. So we used to take care of all the cemetery grounds. And then my father taught Sunday school. Back then it was Sunday school, And I'll never forget. So this is what took us out of the church. So I had a really good friend of mine growing up. His name was Jarvis Hall. A black friend of mine. Like, we used to go to each other's churches. He would take me to Trinity Baptist on Tusk. And, talking about blowing my mind, right? But then I would take him, the first time I took him to our church in Louisville, there was a ton of backlash from that.
Yeah,
so I don't know if you know anything about
I
Louisville.
do.
Yeah. I figured. There was a young man, a high schooler, that actually went up to my father and said, your son and his friend aren't welcome here. And my dad took it to the minister and was like, what are we doing here? But the kid was well connected. His family was well connected in the church. So my parents immediately pulled out of the church and, and called them hypocrites. And we never went back.
Dang.
And I was 10 years old, 11 years old.
That's not a great example for a 10-year-old.
No. So, and I mean, I don't remember getting much out of it. It was, I'm sitting in Sunday school thinking about what I'm doing Sunday afternoon, And I did it more because my parents made me, not because I had any type of faith or anything was growing in me,
Same.
And then I was completely separated from faith until I met Jamie.
Really?
And in fact, I was probably anti-faith because when I was in college is when The Matrix came out. And I was taking philosophy classes. You want to talk about turning your head upside down?
Oh man!
So I remember taking a philosophy class and then having my mind blown on, this was in Columbus at Ohio State, taking a philosophy class, like deep into why things are certain things and why they are the way they are. And then going and watching The Matrix and thinking, is the world even real, or are we all batteries somewhere? You know, I'm 19, 20 years old, you know, mix in probably some alcohol, maybe some marijuana, you know.
Well, I was a heavy believer in the Illuminati when I was 18, 19, 20.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
what
Jay-Z
I mean.
and Rihanna were in it, so.
Tupac too? Yeah, Pac's still alive. But,
Exactly.
So, and I think that's what didn't help me process my father's death, because that was 4 years later, you know, 3 years later. And I didn't know how to channel all that and those challenges of life. So, but when I met my wife, she just exuded you talk about confidence. She just exuded so much confidence in who she was and has such a moral compass of who she was and wasn't going to waver from that. In fact, she wouldn't date me. I wanted to date her and she wouldn't date me. And, because I didn't have faith, like we went on a couple dates, and, we went to this coffee shop in Canton, went to this coffee shop in the square in Philly, and just getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And I remember she told me, if she would ask me all these questions, she kind of set me up. She's like, so what do you do on Sunday morning? You know, and I'm like, sleep in, watch football, you know? And then eventually after a couple of dates, she was like, I want to be your friend, because Christians are called to be with non-Christians, but we can't date.
Dang.
Yeah, we can't date. So
That's a very mature response.
Unless you're going to do something about that, you know? So it took me a couple weeks. Like I was like, well, forget that, you know, like she's willing to throw all that away for something that I had a bad experience with. And I told her about my experience. She respected it.
Yeah.
But that's who she was. She wasn't going to waver from that. And I was like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, but here's this girl that, she was in college at the time. She was playing tennis, which I thought was amazing. You know,
Really?
like I loved being around an athlete. We had so many interests. Like she would sit down and we would watch sports together.
Dang.
You know, we would play video games together. Like,
What?
And she would beat me. Like we'd play Bond. You remember Bond on NCC?
I still have that.
She knew where you popped up. I'm not kidding. You know, and we played Madden. And I'm like, I've never played video games with a female, especially if I was dating. Secondly, one that is competing and beating me in these things. Like what? You know, and then, hey, let's go watch football.
Yeah.
You know, it was cool. You know, so I had to do some realization in my life and say, I like this girl. I want to spend time with her.
Yeah.
But the difference was between my faith experience the first time around when I was young and my faith experience seeing how she lived. Mm-hmm. Was like, okay, I want that. And I want that in a wife. Like I want that in someone that's going to raise my kids, because I can see how grounded she is and how firm she is in what she believes in and her moral compass. You know, who's not attracted to that, right? Like
exactly.
because it's about trust.
Yep.
I could put my total trust in her. I can put my trust in her taking care of my son or my daughter, you know. I can put my trust in her sharing bank account, you know, all the things you do when you get married, you know, and it was just an unbelievable chemistry, but I had to have a commitment to Christ.
See, the way you put that, and I guess this is just going to show our wives, but yeah, I never really thought about like hesitating on that with my wife. Like, no, we're not going to share bank accounts. I just thought, you know, when I thought marriage, I just thought that's what people did. But I didn't think about if there's people out there, unfortunately, that probably are in relationships or are getting married who might not have that freedom or that trust in their partner. And that's just, that's tough, man. But I never thought of it like that, how you just explained that.
That's how the institution of marriage should be.
That's
what Jesus talks about.
Yeah, that's just, it's amazing. And I'm like, man, yeah, that's how it's supposed to work out. But that is amazing, man. I've never, you know, my wife plays video games too, but not on the level where she can compete with me, of course. Yeah. But that's awesome, man. Jamie, I'm gonna have to. I look at her different now because I didn't know. I just, you know, I've only looked at her as a leader in the church, and that's, you know, and the wife of RB.
Yeah, she doesn't share a lot of that. In fact, I just got her new vehicle and I couldn't change the plates, but that Jeep I was driving, that was hers.
Oh, okay.
And because I had a company car when I left finish line, I had to turn it back in. But she's her gamer. I got her 1 year for her birthday. I put her gamer tag on her vanity plate. because she's into it. Like during the pandemic, New Point created a esports.
Yes,
channel.
I have to see this one day.
Yeah. Well, they've moved away from it, but she helped run it, and
really, that's so
they
cool.
were so good at it. They got their own. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they had their own Fortnite lobby.
Oh,
where they can only invite certain people into the lobby, and they had their own map.
Oh wow,
that's how much they were into it. Yeah.
Dang, yeah. I'm big into the esports. I actually applied to be the esports coach at Mount Union before I got the job at ComDoc.
Yeah.
So I was, trying to get into that, and I gotta have some connections, but I was going to be required to move to California, and I'm like, I left over too much. I can't do it. So, but. Man, we have unpacked some good stuff, man, and I'm trying to figure out you're gonna have to come on the show again, but I'm like I want to dive deeper into a lot of things, but also I want to make sure I touch on certain things. So obviously we've talked about your career at Finish Line and basically obviously you're making a change. So let's get into that. So I know we've talked about it, and we know I've played basketball at New Point back when I could, back in the day when I could run around. Yeah. And that obviously that church campus is amazing. We've had our dinner there for the World Nights. It was amazing. Yeah. And just tell us about what's going on at New Point.
Yeah. Well, New Point wants to be about families, so. They're starting a new initiative with sports ministry that is about the youth. Okay. So this will be a youth sports league, 6th grade and below. We've had a huge financial commitment from people in the community and people on our board to build this sports park up behind the church. It's 22 acres. It'll be, I say sports park, but it'll be kind of a community sports park. Gotcha. There's a 11,000 square foot pavilion with full concessions being built. Fireplace, TVs, playground, all kinds of things going on to where, you can, if your kids are practicing on a Tuesday night, for soccer practice, mom and dad can hang out in the pavilion. Dad can have the TVs on. Nice. Mom can sit by the fire if it's cold in the fall, get a hot dog while the kids are practicing, or if it's game day on Saturday, that's kind of the environment. We've got 3 pillars that we're kind of driving everything through, which is community, character, and competition. So, we want to be about community, connecting with people, connecting with families, getting families connected with each other, having some competition, with our youth sports, having a very well-structured league, where we've got multiple divisions, and then having in multiple sports. Eventually, we want to get to 3 or 4 sports.
Nice.
And separating boys from girls, sports. Good. Yeah, I've heard that quite a bit.
I didn't know. I just know what I see on YouTube and a lot of the news that I watch is showing that, the demolishment of all women's sports is coming up.
It's actually kind of sad. Since I've been hired, I've been trying to understand the landscape of youth sports in all the communities because, New Point has 6 campuses, and
true.
We're expecting people to come from different campuses as well. So just understanding the landscape of everywhere from Tusky Valley to Coshocton to Millersburg to Dover, New Philly, like what's being offered, how is that being offered? Is there anything being offered? A great example. I haven't come across, and I don't think there's a soccer program for elementary kids in Garaway schools, or Garaway area, So, is there anything being offered, and is there something really good offered? Like at one point we were looking at building 3 or 4 baseball fields, and we've kind of put that on hold because there's a really good little league baseball program around here in Tuscarawas County. Gotcha. So we don't want to compete with that. We don't want to. We're not here to demolish things or to pull kids out of something. We just want to be more of an assistance. We want to be more of an outreach. We want to be more of a resource, Gotcha. And I'm finding that, there's communities that are just so stretched in their sports programs, like the coaches the varsity coaches, the JV, they want to offer something to elementary kids, but they're recruiting dads, and they're trying to run it themselves, and it's hard to get a lot of resources, a lot of commitment. Those are the communities that we want to be able to give some relief to, and say, let us operate the league, let us train the coaches, let us provide an atmosphere where kids are getting good character building activities to go along with, whatever sport they're involved in, and do it at a very high level customer service experience. And let the dads, if they want to coach, they can coach, but let them come watch, let them, they're not stretched in 4 different ways. And, and that's really what we're looking to create.
That's awesome.
And hopefully it helps, our ultimate goal is to help bring people to Jesus.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, you don't have to attend New Point. You don't have to attend any church to participate in our youth sports. But, as a parent, who doesn't want kids to get a little bit of, have some competition, have community, and get a little bit of character building to go along with that.
Of course.
So that's the
awesome.
goal.
That's awesome. And, obviously, Josh, you can, when he's starting, you can put the stuff up there to show, because I know Josh, you're a graphic designer, and I know you saw that logo and how beautiful it is. So you can put it up there. But then, and when you sent that to me, I was like, man, these things, it looks amazing.
Yeah. We got an incredible team at New Point.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. I've been there a couple times, and, back when I was a salesman and I was trying to get in there, but, with no prevail, but, obviously there's nothing that's done half-heartedly there. You're not doing something just to do it and say, oh, this would be cool if we do this. There's always, Jesus at the forefront, and, I respect that.
Try to. I mean, we don't always we're like everyone else. We don't always get things right, but try to learn from it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, that's pretty awesome. And I do want to touch on, before we end, kind of the dynamic of you and Jamie, and, and your son Isaac. And, I don't want to brag on, you don't have to mention Rainbow Connection or anything like that, because I wasn't even aware of that. But just talk about, Isaac and how you and Jamie have, maybe gotten better as parents or closer because of, I guess I'm looking for all the ways that Isaac has been a blessing to you guys and to Dover.
Yeah. I guess where I can start with is when we found out that he had osteogenesis imperfecta when he was 3 months old. That totally changed the game for us on how we had to raise him, how we had to take care of him, because we had to make sure that he was always safe, so he wouldn't endure more fractures at that time. Now that he's 11, he's got a lot more self-awareness. His body has grown. He's been through 8.5 years of treatment. It's not something that can be cured, but it's something that can be managed.
Gotcha.
In fact, I tell my wife that I think it's helped his golf game, because he's more flexible, and he can do things with a golf club that some kids have a hard time with because of their lack of flexibility and just how he approaches it. But I'll tell you that, again, everything happens for a reason. When, if I would have had a son that had to deal with what he dealt with, I don't know how I would have handled that if I didn't have faith.
Yeah.
That would have broke me, because I wasn't very mentally tough. I needed Jesus for that. And, going through the things that he had to go through. Percy, there were times we were living in Illinois. My first district I ran was in Metro Chicago. We were living in Illinois, and we were literally going to either a doctor's office or a ER every other week, because he would trying to stand up as a toddler, a 6-month-old, 8-month-year-old toddler trying to stand up, and he would fall and grab his leg, and here he would have a little hairline fracture of some sort, or a stress fracture, or a broken bone that would have to get casted. At one point, we considered having us going through training to cast our own. To put our own cast on. Yeah. Because it was so much, and that's typical with an OI patient. But then Akron Children's had developed a treatment to help him, and he started going through that, and it was very rigorous. It was 8 hours a day for 3 straight days of infusion treatment.
Dang.
Where they would pump the stuff into his blood and it would help harden the bone. And then he would get a fever from it and stuff, and you'd have to treat all those side effects, and then you'd move on. But that's made a tremendous impact.
Wow.
But one thing adversity does is I think adversity can either blow you up, or it can, it's a cliche. What doesn't kill you make you stronger. But it's a cliche for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that brought us together because, we had something that we had to work to overcome.
Yeah.
And then just the mental challenges, like he wants to go to a birthday party when he's 3. He gets invited to a birthday party when he's 3 or 4 years old, and there's a trampoline.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, how do you tell a 3-year-old you can't get on a trampoline? Good luck with that. How do you tell a 3-year-old not to run across a wooden floor?
Yeah.
How do you tell a 3-year-old, 4-year-old not to climb on the back of a couch? There was a lot of that at a young age where we had to it was a real great test of patience and kindness between the two of us and working together. We, bless my wife, she was involved in some online groups through the OI Foundation and got connected with some other parents that were handling things like that as well.
That's
so
always
it gives
good.
you good perspective. Yeah. One of the things that's kept us here, because being the job I had, I could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
We could have lived anywhere. But one of the things that helped us tremendously was the school system here, and then our family being here.
Okay.
My mom moved here, Jamie's family living here, just having that support. And then the school system has been unbelievable. The support that we've gotten. When he started in preschool at South, and then he's been at Dover Avenue for like 4 out of the last 5 years.
Okay.
And the administration over there has just been unbelievable on how they've, taken some extra precaution with him.
That's awesome.
And we've never had an incident, knock on wood. Yeah.
This is real wood, right, Josh? Josh built this. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I know every time I see, Isaac, I don't know how I imagined he would be, but I know he doesn't let on that it's tough. He's got
the personality that I had, but he's got more humility than I had when I was young. Yeah. But he doesn't. He doesn't look at it like that. And maybe one day that'll change, but I think that he just understands and has accepted it because he knows.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he doesn't let it define him, which is motivation for me. When I'm having a rough time and something, I'm thinking about, what he's been through. He got his ears pierced recently.
Uh-oh.
So Demir, he's friends with Demir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he's your nephew. Demir is your nephew?
He's my second cousin.
Okay.
Because his mom is my cousin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Demir makes it cool, right? So he's like, Dad, I want to get my ears pierced. And he was like, does it hurt? I said, you've had 20 broken bones, bro. Like, you worried about some earrings? And he was like, that's true. So there's some positive things there to say that, he's got a very high tolerance pain. Every time he's broken a bone, he doesn't even cry. He's just like, something's wrong.
Oh, wow.
And your wrist is facing the wrong direction. There's something wrong. Let's go take care of this,
Wow.
But he's a champ, man. And he gives me a ton of inspiration.
That's what's up, man. And he's got a YouTube channel, so we'll put that in the description.
Yeah, he just had to start a new one.
Did he?
Yeah. He had one that was doing really well, but I didn't realize it. When he started the channel, he used his school account. They must have sniffed that one out because it got taken down. He had a couple of videos that had close to 10,000 views, 900 likes.
Dang.
And he lost all that content. So he just started a new one. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. But okay, so the new one we'll put because I was going to look for the last one because I remember you showed me. But RB, we're going to have you back on, man, because I feel like, I there's some stuff I still want to dive into. So eventually we'll have you back on. But I appreciate you coming and sharing your story, man. Obviously, man of faith, and obviously you and Jamie have a great marriage and great parents, and maybe me and Krista have to have you guys over for some cards. Me and Krista, we don't play on each other's teams because she doesn't think I'm good enough. So.
Yeah, you think same. You think I'm competitive? Meet my wife.
That's how Krista is. So that'll be funny. So
she dumped me years ago on being playing partners.
Oh man, well, Josh is ruining the fun. So no, I'm sure I'm messing with you. But man, this has been fun. It's always good to, get together and talk about things. And obviously I learned some more about you too. So
yeah, I got some good sneaker stories we could dive into. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've actually never had an episode about that. So we're going to have to do that again. So I'll have you back on, if you're willing. And, yeah, cause, we didn't get to touch on, golf or any of that stuff but we'll get to it. Yeah. Appreciate again having you. Appreciate everybody tuning in. This should be Tuesday that you're watching this, and hopefully the Steelers won. No, I'm sure. but thank you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tune in to the next episode.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Peace.
It feels like Casablanca. Shouting you my little mama. I got a crib out of water. Say me Casa su casa. It feels like Casablanca. Shouting you my